Even with the dodge nerfs, I'm somehow getting more dodges with this build than before the nerfs. BXR. BXR perk again. BXR, baby, let's go. BXR, let's go. Sword. BXR again. With some of the recent changes this season to ability cooldowns, that's made some of my builds still perform decently, but not with the uptime or consistency in their gameplay loop that they once had. So while I still like them, I was seeking a better option for this season. And what I've arrived at is, I think, the least likely timeline. It's Blade Barrage. Yep, another class that I talked copious crazy amounts of trash about, that I thought I'd never main. I said I hated this class. I'm loving it, and this is the answer for what I was looking for this season. So why or how exactly did I land on this decision to main this class? I'm pretty committed to playing this at this point in time. So I thought about Blade Barrage's benefits this season. Leading all the benefits, what really made me think here was the fact that this now is one of the, I believe, 2 tier 4 supers. To be clear here, that means it's actually the second fastest regeneration tier of super, only next to Well of Radiance, and it's only one of 2 tier 4 supers, this and Tether. And I firmly believe from my experience with using Tether that this is a much better super than Tether, but functionally they achieve different things. Honestly, the super's not as bad as I expected it to be, and what I like is that with it being tier 4, you get some pretty fast super times and fast regen times. You get supers before opponents, or at least on par with them while running low intellect. So we get to reap the benefits of a fast super cooldown time that makes a bigger disparity between this super and some of the more popular, stronger ones, while also not having to invest in intellect. Another major benefit to this class, and I've always recognized this, is that it has a very consistent and strong engine, meaning its gameplay loop is very consistent. It constantly has ability uptime, and it's quite forgiving even if you do kind of mess up the gameplay loop with it. And this is important because it works around the ability cooldown nerfs for the most part, because it still gets very frequent uptime on its abilities. And with the reduced knife trick cooldown, there's even more reason to use this, as this is an integral piece of the engine of this class. And the recent buff before this most recent one, at some point recently, made them burn for a second longer, which actually makes a massive difference. Incendiary grenades actually got a buff as well this update. They have a bigger detonation radius by 10%. They deal increased damage, so if they're under a player, they'll deal 170 damage and the burn can actually kill them, or they'll deal 130 maximum damage when they're not under a player. So more damage, bigger radius, overall more reason to be using incendiary grenades, which also help and contribute to this class's engine because it deals burn damage. Now, the main problems I've always recognized though with Blade Barrage is I think that this super is a bit awkward or hard to use in like tight places or near cover, because the momentum can push you into cover, or there's very strong aim assist on this super's knife volleys, so much so that it will send it into a wall. Granted, I think we kind of just have to deal with these problems now because it's the second fastest regen super in the game, but other than that, this class, even though it has an incredibly consistent engine, it doesn't have a win condition. I always felt like, yeah, okay, you have constant ability uptime with this class, that's great, but it doesn't actually get you anywhere. The knives by themselves are cool, I guess, and yeah, it can be strong in some moments, but ultimately aren't doing anything significant. And sure, you can get them back quickly, but again, if they're not doing anything of great significance, sure, you're building advantage for your ability economy, but your abilities really don't do anything game altering, so what's really the point? That is Until now, where I feel like I've given this class a win condition, and now it's incredibly strong. A big benefit to this class's engine is the fact that when you burn people, you get dodge energy back. And then when you kill burning targets, you get your knives back. And a key way that you can get to burn people is with your knives. So there's a loop here of being able to, again, knife people, convert on the kill, and get your dodge back, and then get your knives back. And then if you want to increase the consistency of this, you can use Gambler's Dodge, but you don't need Gambler's Dodge. See what we're getting at yet? Well, if you haven't, dodge cooldown got nerfed recently, and it's very significant with Gambler's Dodge. But this class allows you to get your dodge numerous times simply off of burning a target once. So, I found that with this class, you can actually land knives on a target, and it burns long enough for you to get 2 dodges back. Now, we can actually increase the potency of this by adding on some mods on our gauntlets. The bolstering detonation and focusing strike mods are insane with this class. So normally when we would land a volley of knives, best case scenario, we're going to get 2 dodges in total from that cycle of burning. If we add on focusing strike, that turns into 3 dodges if we dodge and then throw our volley of knives and dodge immediately, and every time we get the dodge, we pretty much get 3 dodges. Now, the reason being for this is because focusing strike kicks in for every tick of burn damage. It all counts as melee damage, so it is giving us a massive chunk of our dodge back for every single tick. I didn't explain this, but bolstering detonation and focusing strike give you dodge energy for dealing either grenade damage for bolstering or melee damage for focusing. As I mentioned, these take effect for each tick of burn damage, and on top of that, stack with the effect inherently on the class, giving you dodge cooldown back for burning targets. So when using Marksman's Dodge, the lower cooldown one, in a perfect scenario, landing 1 knife volley after dodging will give you 3 dodges, pretty much. It's just barely short of 3 dodges. With your grenade, I don't believe it burns as long, so you're not going to get as much. I believe you're usually going to get 1.5 to 2 dodges in the best case scenario, but it all adds up because it's all ways to burn your target and activate these gauntlet mods. With this setup, I actually feel like I'm getting more dodges and I have more disposable dodges somehow than before the dodge cooldown nerfs, which is insane. And the craziest part to think about this is you don't need a kill to do it. You just need to land a knife volley on someone or a grenade on someone, which is really not hard to do with this class. But like I said, we have a more consistent engine than ever, but what's it getting us? Well, when we add on my favorite exotic, Gemini Jesters, onto this, we suddenly have more of a win condition. Because when you can Gemini Jester 3 times in a row, you're now jamming your opponent's radar for 12 seconds. And that is a staggering difference between 4 seconds, which is a brief period of time that can make a difference, to 12 seconds, which is an entire engagement where they're essentially going to have no radar. That is staggeringly strong, I think. And what's crazy to think about is it's actually not limited to Gemini Jesters. While I believe this is the best option to be using with this kind of an engine, it works for anything. It works for Dragon Shadow. If you want to just keep yourself alive repeatedly, it works for Wormhusk. You'll probably be unkillable in some engagements. There's another small problem to this class though. We want our knives to be a bit more impactful. Sure, it's getting us our dodge, which is ultimately our win condition with some of these exotics like Gemini Jesters, but it'd be nice if they were just a bit more impactful. And that's where the BXR-55 Battler comes in, because not only are we going to be able to be landing knives to get our radar jam, we're going to be able to take advantage of the blunt execution rounds perk. So not only when we land knives are, like I said, we get our dodge back and we get some good damage to kind of keep people away that are getting pretty aggressive on us or follow up with a shotgun, but we're getting a damage buff that lasts for 10 seconds for 1 burst of our BR to essentially get 150 damage potentially off of that 1 burst. so we're getting increased lethality for our next engagement or to ward off someone playing really aggressively against us, and we're getting repeated exotic activations. So our win condition is abusing this engine to basically get a damage buff repeatedly, which can be high impact with the amount of times we're able to get it with this engine, and multiple repeated exotic activations that can really heavily influence an engagement. For a bit more specifics on the mods and stats that I chose with my build that I had available, I have things like Radiant Light on, of course, bolstering detonation and focusing strike, powerful friends. I also have double utility kickstart that's integral in being able to get our dodges back faster. And for my stats, I use 10 mobility, 2 resilience, 9 recovery, 5 discipline, 4 intellect, and 9 strength. And I'll explain that in just a moment. And obviously on my BXR-55, I use, like I mentioned, blunt execution rounds. So I personally decided to run 9 strength on this build. If I could, I'd be running 10, but I'm still trying to gear up for that. I'm sacrificing some intellect to put into my grenade and my melee, as I feel the neutral game and getting that burn damage is more important to me than my super. And my super I'm going to get quickly or on par with other people's anyways. I went for 9 strength because I'm opting in for marksman's dodge now. I think this build can still do very well with gambler's dodge, especially since it regens the dodge the way that it does, but I feel like building into strength and gambler's dodge is kind of counterintuitive. And with gambler's dodge, as much as it might be very good, it does rely on you being successful with your knives more often, and when you're not, you're gonna see a bigger difference. So it might give you a higher ceiling per se, because you can repeatedly hit those knives, repeatedly cycle your dodges, but I think that the skill floor is a lot lower, and you get punished a lot more for messing up that engine or that loop. So for me, high strength and just like a more consistent engine that has not as high of a ceiling is fine with me. Honestly, it's up to you though, what you think is better. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the build video. I'm excited to keep playing this class and using it moving forward, and am really enjoying it. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.